Thanks, Chris. Susan, thanks for that nearly evangelical thank you to the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. As the Premier said this morning, you can take the high road or the low road, and in biblical circumstances, if you took the high road, it was always the harder road, but it was the safer road. The low road was the one for robbers, and when you usually ran into a few little problems. But the Premier often talks about his road to Damascus in that biblical sense of how he's changed his lifestyle. And it's no accident that we set up as a new government two ministries, one mental health, which I have, and the other one healthy lifestyles, which I also have carriage of. And that was in recognition of the quality of life improvements that we've got to make in this 21st century, whether you live in the city or where you live in the bush, where I live. So you guys are all part of how we make those improvements. And Rodney, I just want to say, mate, you ticked all my boxes as a baby boomer and someone that played a lot of sport when I was younger. But as I get older, I don't want to go in for hip and knee replacements and do walk on a daily basis. There's a few others in that category I noticed here. But fundamentally, how we just need to keep moving. And my son, I like giving it back to our kids a bit. My son trained at Brisbane University as a landscape artist, architect, and he's been working in Melbourne, Brisbane and Byron Bay. He's just moved to the city and here, and he's undertaking a Masters in Urban and Regional Planning to add to that. And I said, why do you want to do that? And he starts next week, 2 weeks' time, and he said, well, you know, planners have been the social engineers of the past and they'll be the social engineers of the future. In this, and he wasn't being critical, but if we don't get planning right and if it's not integrated, things tend to become disparate, like our good friend who's in Western Sydney that wants to join up a walking track that if you probably went back 50 years ago, they were all bloody paddocks anyway, and you would have had to been cutting fences. So, you know, we can do better. The groups that we've charged along the way, and we talked about next steps, are two groups I just want to comment on very briefly. One is PCAL. We wanted, as a government, to have a vehicle that could pull a lot of the agencies together and take charge, but it didn't necessarily have to be a government agency. So the work that Peter has been doing and the PCAL board and their ambassadors is fundamentally important. I know a lot of the agencies are part of that, and certainly the community groups and particularly local government. Whilst we have the Premier's Council for Active Living, we're actually calling it the Premier's Council for Active and Healthy Living because we didn't just want to target in our key performance and state targets areas around mobility and activity, but we also wanted to target issues around nutrition as well. And that's where Chris comes in and the Office of Preventative Health and the partnership we have with the federal government, indeed with the community. So people like Joe Mitchell and the public health component of the Ministry of Health that work in with that office to help make the healthy eating, active living policy come to life is fundamentally important to us. We're not going to make giant steps in the initial stages. Most gains in politics and behavioural change are incremental. They're not necessarily life-changing events. It's not about losing the 50 kilos that the Premier amazingly has done. We say that it doesn't matter how much you lose, everything's a benefit. So it doesn't matter how far you walk, well it does in one sense, but as long as you start moving and make those incremental gains, people's lives will improve. So I just wanted to say thank you and certainly to Karen Lee. I was here last year when Karen presented at our conference. And my last comment will be that the biggest changes of lifestyle in history, health-wise, have not been clinicians. It's actually been the community, and I think the biggest health gain we made was plumbing when we came and moved into urbanised areas and clean running water and sewerage outlets and the like. So going back to the volunteers and the community, just as I say, mental health is not a government issue in isolation. It's not a clinician's issue in isolation. It's a community-based issue and something that we've all got to work towards. And healthy lifestyles and improvements in our community, doesn't matter whether you attend that local environmental planning discussion meeting in your local community to make sure you are getting connectivity you are addressing the issues around amenity as opposed to more bloody car spaces. The preoccupation with that does drive me insane, I've got to say. Whether you're in that volunteer or area of expertise, particularly the technical expertise, we've got to participate. So, Chris, thank you for hosting today. In that sense, doing great work, and I think we will see those gains, just as New York started to turn back some of their obesity rates, starting from probably a higher base, I've got to say. But we can respond in a meaningful way. Children and young people, we are doing a good job on, I've got to say, but our obesity rates for adults is stubbornly high. We know what's good for other people, particularly young people, and it's a bit of do as I say, not as I do. So the challenge really is for us as a community that are growing older. And finally, I'd just like to say that the Walk 21 conference, I think, at Luna Park, what a great place to have it for a start. I think really will focus on a number of issues, not just the walkability. I think, Rodney, what you're doing is using a very, very basic human ability as a platform for lifestyle change and lifestyle improvement. So for someone that's in the chronic disease space, I mean, it's fundamental. And it's an elementary issue for us. So hopefully we will get some abstract submissions, as far-ranging as joining up those walking tracks into other areas. I had 6 years in Tasmania and living in the southern forests, and walkability was outstanding. People physically moved there, and just for that reason. So we know that those improvements and those focuses communities can make do attract people, but conversely, they do deter people as well. So thank you for your efforts. I'm sure you've found the forum worthwhile. Thank you to the guest speakers, but Rodney, thank you in particular for the effort that you've made to be here. Look forward to catching up with you in October. Cheers. Thank you.